I got cut loose on a Tuesday, quietly, like I'd never existed. No warning, no thank you. Just a calendar invite titled Sync, a glass conference room, and two people who wouldn't meet my eyes. HR was already there. My manager, Wade, sat with his hands folded like this was church. A manila folder waited in the center of the table with my name on a sticker. "Grant," the HR rep said, bright and careful. "This will be brief." That's always how it starts. People tell you something ugly, then ask you to admire their efficiency. She slid the folder toward me. Severance. A release. One paragraph about reduction in force. Wade kept nodding like he could nod his way out of guilt. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't beg. I just asked, "What changed between Friday and today?" Wade swallowed. "It's a business decision." Business decision. The phrase you use when you don't want to say you're inconvenient. I'd been inconvenient lately. I ran operations and compliance for a mid-sized contractor doing commercial work. Permits, inspections, schedules that clients treated like religion. The company liked to say we were moving fast. What that meant was we were always one corner cut away from becoming a cautionary tale. And I was the guy who kept saying no. No, we can't start before the permit posts. No, we can't let an unlicensed sub touch that scope. No, we don't fix dates after the fact. It wasn't morality. It was survival. Because in our world, paperwork isn't paperwork. It's a shield. And my name was on that shield. I wasn't just the ops guy. I was the qualifying individual on our state license, the person tied to the company's legal ability to pull permits. If the board investigates, if an inspector writes it up, if a client files a complaint, my name is the first one that comes up in the public lookup, my signature on affidavits, my license number on applications, my responsibility on paper, even if I'm not on site. HR kept talking, reciting policy like it could make the moment feel normal. Your access will be disabled today. Final pay on the normal schedule. COBRA information is included. I skimmed the severance pages to keep my hands steady. The number was fine, not generous, not insulting, just calculated enough to make a reasonable person go quiet. Then I saw a line that tightened my throat. Employee agrees to provide reasonable transition assistance as needed. I looked up. Define transition assistance. HR smiled without warmth. Answering questions. Being available for handoff. And my license obligations? I asked. Wade's eyes flicked away, fast, a tell. HR's smile stayed in place. Your responsibilities end today. That was the first lie. Not because she meant to lie. Because she didn't understand what she was playing with. I pushed the folder back an inch. I'm not signing anything right now. Wade leaned forward. Let's not make this harder than it has to be. I kept my voice even. I need confirmation in writing that I'm removed as the qualifier on the license. HR blinked. That's handled internally. No, I said. It's handled with the board. Silence. People moved past the glass walls outside, pretending not to look. The office kept breathing while my life got boxed. HR cleared her throat. We can discuss that later. Wade nodded like that was a plan. I stood. Then send it later. The escort was the part that made it real. Not security, Kyle from IT, holding a checklist like he'd been assigned a chore. Hey man, he said quietly. They said I have to collect your laptop and badge. Yeah, I said. I know. By the time we reached my desk, my inbox was locked. Teams was dead. Calendar wiped. Digital erasure. Instant. I took my notebook, my charger, and the one photo I kept face down in a drawer. Kyle avoided looking at me like eye contact would make it worse. In the lobby, HR handed me a cardboard box with handles. My exit box. Like I should be grateful for the packaging. Your personal items will be shipped, she said, reading from the script. I held the box and asked one last time. When are you removing me from the license? Wade said. We'll take care of it. I didn't argue. I didn't threaten. I just memorized the sentence. Because I've learned something about people who say, we'll take care of it. They mean, we hope you stop asking. In my car, before I even started the engine, I opened my phone and wrote down the basics. Time, names, exact phrases, not revenge, record keeping, the kind that keeps you alive later. At home, the silence got loud. No email, no confirmation, no plan, just nothing. And that was the second lie, the one they told was silence. So I opened the state licensing board site. It's public. Anyone can search. Contractors do it every day. I typed in our company name, license active. No restrictions, no pending change. And under qualifying individual, clear as day, Grant Miller. My phone rang while the page was still open. Unknown number, local area code. I answered. Mr. Miller? A man asked, calm and professional. This is Inspector Ramirez with the state. We're doing a routine verification on the Riverside project. Routine. He said it like it was nothing. Then he asked the question that made my hands go cold. Are you still the responsible qualifier on that company's active permits? I stared at my name on the screen, then at the severance packet on my kitchen table. They hadn't just fired me. They'd left me attached. I thought they'd panic the moment an inspector said my name out loud. They didn't. Inspector Ramirez stayed calm, like he'd asked the same question 100 times, and already knew the answer I didn't want to give. I was terminated this morning, I said. They disabled my access. I'm not employed there. A beat of silence, then his tone tightened, just slightly. Understood. But if you're still listed as the qualifying individual, you're still the qualifying individual. That's how the system reads it. I didn't agree to stay on anything, I said. I'm not saying you did, he replied. I'm saying what the public record shows. If an incident happens on a permitted site, the board doesn't start by asking who meant well. They start by pulling the license. I felt heat climb up my neck, not anger at him. Anger at the idea that my career could be turned into a prop. What do I do? I asked. You file a disassociation request with the board, he said, in writing, and you document that you notified the company. Today, not next week. I stared at my kitchen table, the severance packet, the empty coffee cup, my name glowing on the state website like a target. Is Riverside active right now? I asked. Yes, Ramirez said. And we're verifying who is responsible. I'm not calling to threaten you. I'm calling because if your name stays on that license and a violation happens, you'll spend months proving what you already told me in 30 seconds. Months, hearings, lawyers, a record. I swallowed. Do you need something from me? For now, he said, send me an email stating you're no longer employed and you're requesting removal. It won't remove you, but it establishes timing. Then file with the board. I'd also suggest notifying the company's insurer if you can. Of course he said it like that, if you can. As if insurers were a door you knocked on politely. Okay, I said. I'll do it today. Good, he replied. And Mr. Miller, don't let anyone talk you into signing something that keeps you attached. That sentence hit harder than the termination, because it meant this wasn't just sloppiness. This was a strategy people used. When the call ended, my hands didn't shake. They went steady, cold, steady. I opened my laptop, my personal one, and created a folder with today's date, screenshots of the license lookup, time-stamped. I saved a PDF printout. I wrote a one-page timeline. 9:07 a.m. termination meeting, 9:41 a.m. access disabled, 12:18 p.m. license still lists me, 12:53 p.m. inspector call. Then I wrote an email to Ramirez. Subject, employment status, license qualifier listing, Hawthorne Commercial. I kept it factual. No emotion, no opinions. I was terminated today. I no longer have access. I have requested immediate removal as qualifier. I am filing disassociation with the board today. Send. The second that email left my outbox, something in my chest loosened. Not relief. Control. A small piece of it. Then I called Wade. He answered on the second ring like he'd been waiting for it. "Grant," he said, too casual. "Listen." "No," I cut in. "You're still using my license." A pause. "We're not using anything. HR said it's being handled." "The inspector called my personal phone," I said. "Riverside is active. My name is still on the license. That's not handled. That's live." Wade exhaled like I was being dramatic. "It's a database. It takes time." "It takes time when you want it to," I said. "It takes one form when you have to." "Grant," he said, voice lowering, "you're spiraling. Let's be adults. We're transitioning. You'll be off soon." "Soon doesn't protect me if something happens today," I said. "Remove me now, in writing, with a confirmation number." Wade's tone sharpened. "You can't just demand." "I can," I said, "because it's my license, my name, my liability." He went quiet. Then he tried another angle. "Look," he said, "we need you to be reasonable. We have jobs scheduled, clients. You know how this works." That was the truth slipping out. Not we forgot. "We can't afford to lose what your name unlocks." I kept my voice flat. "You should have thought about that before you fired me." He sighed. "Okay, fine. HR will email you." "Today," I said. "Today," he repeated like a promise that meant nothing. 10 minutes later, HR emailed. Subject: follow-up. The message was 4 lines of corporate fog. They acknowledged my request, said they were reviewing internal requirements, and asked if I would remain available to support a smooth transition. No confirmation, no timeline, no board filing number, just a gentle attempt to keep me in the loop without being on payroll. I replied in the same tone, but sharper. "I am not available for transition assistance unless my disassociation is confirmed in writing by the state board. Please provide confirmation of filing today." 5 minutes passed. Then HR wrote back again. New attachment. Consulting agreement, PDF. I opened it and felt that cold, steady turn into something else. It wasn't a consulting agreement. Not really. It was a trap written in polite font. They wanted me to sign as an independent consultant, providing oversight and compliance support for 30 days, at a flat fee that looked decent until you read the fine print. And there it was, buried in the middle. Consultant acknowledges responsibilities for ensuring ongoing compliance with licensing requirements during the term of engagement. My jaw clenched. They weren't trying to remove me. They were trying to keep me, without calling me an employee. So if something went wrong, they could say I agreed to stay responsible. I didn't call. I didn't argue. I didn't negotiate. I started building the record. I drafted a formal notice. 1 page, plain English, no drama. I was terminated effective today. I revoke any authorization for the company to represent me as qualifier. I demand immediate removal and cessation of use of my name, my license. Any continued listing or use is without my consent. All communication must be in writing. I printed it, signed it, scanned it. Then I sent it 3 ways. Email to HR and Wade with read receipts on. Certified mail to the company office, the kind they can't pretend they didn't receive. A copy to myself in a separate email thread, like a time capsule. The moment I clicked send, I felt that small surge again. Not revenge, protection, and I wasn't done. I opened the board's disassociation portal. The form was exactly what Ramirez implied, not emotional, just administrative. Dates, employer info, license number, reason terminated, requesting immediate disassociation. I attached the termination email, the license screenshot, and my formal notice. I hovered over the final button, submit, and took a breath. Because once I filed, it stopped being a private problem. It became a matter of record. I clicked. A confirmation number appeared on the screen. I copied it into my timeline and saved the submission receipt as a PDF. Then my phone buzzed. Text from Wade. "Don't do anything you'll regret. Call me." I didn't reply. A minute later, another email came through. This time from HR. No greeting, no warmth. Subject: urgent. And the first sentence was the kind that tells you they just realized you aren't bluffing. If you proceed with external filings, the company will consider all available legal remedies. I stared at the line until it blurred, because threats only show up when someone feels cornered, and suddenly I understood the real game they'd been playing since the moment I walked out with that box. They weren't trying to remove me, they were trying to hold me, long enough to finish the jobs, long enough to get paid, long enough to make the risk mine. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. This time it wasn't the inspector. It was the Riverside project manager, calling my personal cell like I was still on the inside. And I knew, before I answered, that something had already gone wrong. I let it ring twice before I answered. Grant? The voice was tight, exhausted. It's Melissa, Riverside PM. I didn't know who else to call. My stomach sank. Riverside wasn't just a project. It was one of our biggest commercial jobs. Tight schedule, high visibility, and the kind of client that escalated issues straight to executives. What's going on? I asked. She lowered her voice like someone was in the room with her. Your company badge got deactivated in the system. They told us you were, transitioning, but... She hesitated. The inspector's here. He's asking for you by name. I stared at my kitchen wall, feeling that strange split you get when life turns into paperwork. Part of me wanted to yell. The other part was already arranging facts in my head like evidence. Melissa, I said, steady. I was terminated today. I have no access. I'm not authorized to advise or represent the company. A long pause. Then why is everyone saying you're still the qualifier? Because they need a name to keep the doors open, I thought. Out loud, I said, Who told you I'm transitioning? Wade, she said, almost apologetic. And HR. They said you're still helping for a few weeks. And Grant, her voice cracked. They sent an updated permit package this morning. Your name is on it. My hand tightened around the phone. Sent to who? To the client and the superintendent, she said. It was labeled Revised for Compliance. Revised for Compliance. The phrase made my jaw clench. Email it to me, I said. From your company address to my personal, if you can. If you can't, forward it as an attachment to your personal, and then to mine. I need the timestamp. Okay, she whispered. But if they find out, I know, I said. Do what you can without putting yourself at risk. She exhaled shakily. What do I tell the inspector? He's asking if you approved a change order. There it was. The real problem. Already moving. I didn't approve anything, I said. Tell him you contacted me and I stated I'm no longer employed. Tell him you can't provide access to me as a representative of the company. Another beat. He's not yelling, she said. He's just quiet. Like he's writing everything down. That was worse than yelling. After I hung up, I didn't pace. I didn't spiral. I opened my folder and started a new document. Riverside, contacts, timeline, time of call, name, what she said, verbatim. Then I took screenshots again. License lookup, still listing me. I refreshed the page twice in case it changed while I wasn't looking. It didn't. My phone buzzed. An email from Melissa, sent from her personal Gmail, subject line blank, like she was afraid even words could betray her. Attachment, Riverside, permit package, Acheshua, Rev 2 PDF. I saved it without opening it first. I saved the email itself. I exported it as a PDF. I noted the timestamp. Then I opened the attachment. The cover page had our company logo, the job address, and a neat block of text listing key contacts. Project Manager, Melissa Hart. Superintendent, Mark, Compliance, Qualifier, Grant Miller, my name, my title, like I was still there. I flipped through the pages until I found the signature section. Someone had typed my name in a line that should have been mine to sign. No scribble, no scan, just a typed Grant Miller, where the qualifier acknowledgement sat. It wasn't a forged signature in the cinematic sense. It was worse. It was a casual lie, the kind that destroys you because it looks normal at first glance. I felt my chest go tight, not fear, Not yet. Something like grief. Like realizing the people you tried to protect would use you as insulation the moment it benefited them. I didn't know it yet, but that one PDF would cost them everything. I called Ramirez back. He answered immediately, like he'd been expecting my call. I have a permit package sent today, I said, after my termination. My name is listed as qualifier, typed into an acknowledgement line. His silence wasn't surprise. It was confirmation. Email it to me, he said, unedited. Include the email headers if you can. I have the forwarding email, I said, time-stamped. Good, Ramirez replied. And Mr. Miller, do not communicate by phone with the company anymore unless you're recording legally. Keep everything in writing. I exhaled. What happens now? That depends on what I find on site, he said. But this isn't just paperwork delay. This is representation. It's a problem. I sent him the attachment and the exported email PDF within 2 minutes. Then I did something I should have done earlier. I stopped treating this like a workplace argument and started treating it like a legal exposure. I called the one person I knew who'd survived a board complaint without losing his livelihood, an older guy in the industry named Tom, semi-retired, the kind of man who never raised his voice and never lost. He picked up on the first ring. Grant, he said, I heard you got clipped. Yeah, I said. They left my name on the license. Tom didn't react emotionally. He didn't ask how I felt. He asked the only question that mattered. Do you have it in writing? I do, I said. Termination, my removal demand, board filing receipt, and now a permit packet sent after termination with my name. Tom let out a low breath. Okay, listen carefully. You need a licensing attorney, not a general employment lawyer, someone who understands qualifiers and disassociation. I figured, I said. I'll text you a name, Tom said. She's blunt and expensive. That's what you want. A second later, my phone buzzed with a contact. Dana Cho, Licensing and Regulatory Counsel. I didn't hesitate. I called. Her assistant answered, took my name, and put me on hold. 30 seconds later, Dana herself came on, voice crisp. Grant Miller, she said. Tom's message said you've been terminated and your license roll is still active. Yes, I said, and they're issuing permit packages with my name after termination. Send me the documents, she said. Timeline termination proof, board disassociation confirmation, and that permit package. Then answer one question. Okay, I said. Did you sign anything today? She asked. No. Good, Dana said. Because if they can't keep you as an employee, they'll try to keep you as consent. I closed my eyes for half a second. That sentence matched exactly what Ramirez warned. I emailed Donna everything. Organized, labeled, time-stamped. No ranting, no adjectives, just facts. She called back 15 minutes later. Here's what's real, she said. The board cares about 2 things, public safety and truthful representations. You've already done the right first steps, notice and disassociation filing. Now we need to create a clean, defensible line. You terminated association, you demanded removal, and they continued listing or using your name without authority. So I'm protected? I asked. You're building protection, Donna corrected. Protection is a file, not a feeling. I actually felt something then, small but sharp. A shift. Like I'd been pushed into the role of victim all day, and now I was back in a role I understood. Operator. What do you need from me? I asked. Dana didn't waste time. Do not provide advice to the job site, she said. Not to help, not to be nice. Any help will be framed as continued involvement. Second, send the company one final written directive. Cease using your name and license number on any permits, documents, or representations effective immediately. Third, notify their insurer and bonding agent that you are not acting in that capacity. Fourth, if Ramirez finds violations, let the process move. Do not interfere. And if they threaten me? I asked. They already did, Donna said flat. Save it. Forward it. Do not respond emotionally. If they call, let it go to voicemail. After the call, I sat at my table and stared at my own timeline. Termination. Permit package sent after termination. Threat email. Board filing receipt. It wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. It was a decision. They made a choice to keep my name alive after they cut me loose. Because the liability was still live, and they needed someone to stand in front of it. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from HR. Subject: please confirm availability. One sentence. Per Wade, please confirm you can remain available to answer compliance questions for the next 2 weeks. No mention of removal. No mention of my disassociation filing. No apology. Just an assumption that my life was still theirs to schedule. I opened a new draft reply, then stopped. Dana's words came back. Protection is a file, not a feeling. So I didn't reply with anger. I replied with a boundary. Short, cold, in writing. And as I hit send, something in me hardened into certainty. They thought firing me would make me disappear. But if they kept my name on their work, then I wasn't disappearing. I was becoming evidence. The first time they sounded afraid wasn't when I demanded removal. It was when the board started calling them back. It began with a voicemail from an unknown number at 8:12 a.m. Mr. Miller, this is Angela Park with the State Licensing Board. I'm following up on your disassociation filing. Please return my call today. I didn't feel relief. I felt weight, because once the board is involved, nobody gets to smooth it over with office politics. There are dates, records, consequences. I called Dana first. Do you speak to the board? I asked. Yes, she said. But you can also call them directly. Keep it short. Stick to the timeline. Do not speculate. So I called Angela Park back from my kitchen table with my laptop open and my folder of screenshots ready. Mr. Miller, she said, professional and calm, I'm confirming you filed a disassociation request yesterday. You're stating you were terminated on Tuesday morning, correct? Yes, I said. Termination meeting at 9:07 a.m. My access was disabled before 10. And you notified the company in writing? Yes. Email and certified mail. I also have a permit package sent after my termination listing me as the qualifier. There was a pause that wasn't hesitation, it was her typing. Please forward that permit package to me, she said, and the email showing the transmission date. I can do that now, I replied. Do it while we're on the phone, she said. And Mr. Miller, do you have any ongoing consulting relationship with the company? No, I said. They tried to get me to sign one after the termination. I did not sign. Understood, she said. Do not sign anything retroactively. I'm placing your disassociation request into expedited review. Expedited review. That was the first time all week someone in authority said something that moved the needle. I forwarded the PDF and the forwarded email chain exactly as I received them. No edits, no highlighting, no commentary. Just evidence. Angela confirmed receipt. Next step, she said, we will notify the license holder that your association is disputed. They will be required to respond and to cease representing you as the qualifier. If they fail to comply, there can be immediate administrative action. Am I personally exposed right now? I asked. Her voice stayed even. Your exposure decreases the moment you create a clean record. You are doing that. Continue. If anyone asks you to advise the job site, do not. Keep everything in writing. When the call ended, I sat still for a second, listening to the quiet. Then my phone rang again. Wade. I let it go to voicemail. A second later, my email lit up. HR, Wade, and someone I hadn't seen copied before. Our owner, Darren Holt. Subject, urgent, disassociation filing. The tone changed immediately. No more gentle corporate fog. Grant, we need to resolve this immediately. Your filing is causing operational disruption. Please call me. Operational disruption. That was their way of saying, the machine is choking. I didn't call. I replied with a single paragraph Dana had helped me craft. I'm no longer employed by Hawthorne Commercial as of Tuesday, effective immediately. I do not consent to any use of my name, license number, or qualifier status on any active permits, documents, or representations. Any continued representation is without authorization. All communications must be in writing. Send. Within 3 minutes, my phone started buzzing, call after call. Unknown numbers, blocked numbers, numbers I recognized from the office. I didn't answer. Then the text began. Wade, this is getting out of hand. HR, please stop escalating. Darren Holt, you're hurting the company. We can fix this like adults. And then the one that made my blood go cold. Darren, if you don't retract the filing, we will pursue damages. Retract the filing. They weren't even pretending anymore. They wanted me to erase the records so they could keep using my name in peace. I forwarded every message to Dana and added them to my timeline. At 11:06 a.m., Inspector Ramirez emailed me. Subject, Riverside Verification Update. His message was short, controlled. The kind of message that doesn't include feelings because it doesn't need to. He confirmed he visited the Riverside site. He confirmed the company presented documentation listing me as the qualifier. He confirmed he instructed them to provide immediate proof of updated qualifier status and to cease representing me if I was no longer employed. He copied the board contact email, then one line at the bottom. If the qualifier status is not corrected, the permitting authority may suspend inspections for this site. That's when I finally understood what chaos looks like in a regulated business. It doesn't look like shouting. It looks like schedules collapsing quietly. One cannot proceed email at a time. By noon, Melissa from Riverside texted, "They just called an emergency meeting. Darren is here. They're saying you're going rogue. The client's counsel is on speaker." Client counsel. That meant the story had already left the building. It wasn't HR anymore. It wasn't Wade. It was lawyers and risk. At 12:37 p.m., my phone buzzed with an email from a bonding agency I recognized. One of the companies Hawthorne used for performance bonds on larger jobs. Subject, verification request, qualifier, status. I didn't reply impulsively. I forwarded it to Dana. She called me 10 minutes later. "This is normal," she said. "When a qualifier dispute hits the board, underwriters start asking questions. We respond cleanly and truthfully." "How do I respond without it sounding like I'm attacking them?" I asked. "You don't attack," she said. "You state a fact. You are not acting in that capacity, and you have filed disassociation. That's it." I replied to the bonding agent with 3 sentences and attached the board's submission receipt. I am no longer employed by Hawthorne Commercial effective Tuesday. I am not acting as qualifying individual for any active projects. I have filed formal disassociation with the state licensing board. Send. That was a small moment of satisfaction, not revenge, not celebration, just the feeling of choosing the correct move instead of the emotional one. Then at 2:14 p.m., an email arrived from Angela Park. Subject, Notice of Disputed Association, Hawthorne Commercial. She confirmed the board had issued formal notice to the license holder. She confirmed they were required to respond within a specific window. She confirmed that continued representation of me as the qualifier could be treated as a serious violation. And she ended with, "Do not engage directly with the company by phone. Maintain all correspondence." I read it twice, then saved it, then exported it as a PDF and dropped it into my folder. For the first time since I'd been fired, I felt something close to calm. Because it was no longer my word against theirs. It was my record against their behavior. At 4:30 p.m., Wade finally stopped calling and sent one last email. This one wasn't corporate. It was personal. And that's how I knew he was scared. "Grant, I'm asking you, please, call me. Darren is saying things. They're blaming you. They're talking about the client walking. Just call me so we can figure out a path." I stared at the screen. A part of me wanted to answer, to be reasonable, to be the guy who fixes problems. Then I looked at the permit package again, my name typed neatly into a place it didn't belong. And I remembered what Dana said. Any help will be framed as involvement. So I didn't call. I replied with one sentence. All communications must be in writing. At 6:02 p.m., my phone buzzed with a new voicemail. It was Darren Holt. His voice had lost the polished confidence. He sounded like a man trying to hold a door shut with his shoulder. Grant, he said, you don't understand what you're doing. If the board takes action, this affects people. Good people. Projects. Families. You want that on your conscience? He paused, then added quietly, almost as an offer. We can pay you to stay on, just for a little while. Name your number. I replayed that last line twice. They had fired me to save money. And now they were offering to buy my name back because the liability was still live. I didn't respond. Because the moment I negotiated, I became part of their timeline again. And I didn't want my name anywhere near their mess when the next email arrived. This one from Melissa. 2 words. They're coming, I called her immediately. Who's coming? I asked. Her voice was shaking. The client, their counsel, and the board inspector. They're walking the site again. Darren just told everyone to stick to the story. Which story? I asked, already knowing. That you're still involved, she whispered. That you're consulting. I looked down at my phone at the glowing screen and felt something settle in my chest. Not fear, certainty. Because if they told the board I was consulting, then they were about to put a lie on the record. And when that happens, it stops being a messy termination. It becomes fraud. And the next day, whether I wanted it or not, someone was going to ask me to prove, in public, that I was never there. I expected anger when it ended. What I felt instead was relief. Because for the first time in days, the truth didn't need me to defend it. It could stand on its own. The next morning, I woke up to 3 emails and 1 missed call from Dana. I called her back immediately. Board action, she said, no greeting. Not a suspension yet, but a directive. Hawthorne has been ordered to stop representing you as qualifier, effective immediately. Any permit documents with your name on them are now a problem they have to explain. My throat tightened. So my name is off? Your disassociation is pending final processing, she said. But the board has acknowledged you're disputing the association and has put the company on notice. That changes the risk landscape. They can't pretend anymore. I sat down at my kitchen table, same coffee cup. But it felt like a different room. Ramirez, I asked. He escalated his report, Donna said. He documented that the company presented a permit package listing you after termination. He documented internal statements that you were still consulting without any proof you agreed to it. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a representation issue. A representation issue. A professional way of saying, someone lied with your name. By 9:30 a.m., Melissa texted me again. This time it wasn't fear. It was a single sentence that carried the entire collapse. They just got told to stop work. Stop work orders don't look dramatic. They look like men standing around with clipboards, waiting for someone else's signature to exist. But in commercial construction, stop work is a financial hemorrhage. Crews still need to be paid. Equipment still gets billed. Clients still keep calendars. And once lawyers smell uncertainty, they don't want explanations. They want exits. Around 10:15, I got an email from Riverside's client counsel, someone I'd never spoken to before. Subject, request for confirmation, qualifier status. It was polite and terrifying in the way lawyers are when they already know what happened and just need you to confirm it. They asked, in plain terms, whether I was employed by Hawthorne, whether I had agreed to consult, and whether I was currently responsible for compliance on Riverside. I forwarded it to Dana, and she called me back 5 minutes later. We respond, she said. 1 page, factual. No accusations, no emotions. You'll attach your termination proof, your board filing receipt. I did exactly that. I stated I was terminated on Tuesday. I stated I did not sign any consulting agreement. I stated I filed disassociation immediately upon learning I was still listed. I stated I did not authorize use of my name on any permits after termination. Then I attached the receipts. Send. After that, the company's calls turned frantic. Wade left a voicemail that sounded like a man trying to outrun his own decisions. Grant, please. Darren is saying you set him up. The client is furious. They're threatening default. If you just tell them you're still helping, just for now, we can stabilize this. Stabilize. That word almost made me laugh. They didn't want truth. They wanted a temporary lie that kept the cash flowing. Darren called from a blocked number. I didn't answer. He emailed instead. Longer this time, paragraphs and promises. He offered money. He offered apologies that didn't quite say sorry. He offered to make it right if I would withdraw the disassociation and sign a short consulting addendum. I read it once and forwarded it to Dinah. Her reply came back in 2 lines. Do not engage. This is them attempting to manufacture consent after the fact. At noon, the board's investigator, Angela Park, emailed again. Subject: disassociation confirmation. Pending completion. She confirmed the board had received Hawthorne's response. She confirmed it conflicted with my documentation. She confirmed the board was opening a formal inquiry into misrepresentation. Then the line that made my chest finally release a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Effective immediately, the license holder must not list you as the qualifying individual or imply your involvement in any capacity. I saved it, printed it, put it in the same folder as my termination notice, not because I planned to frame it, because I wanted a physical reminder that my name was no longer something other people could borrow. By late afternoon, the consequences hit the company where it always hurts: money and reputation. Riverside's client issued a formal notice of breach because Hawthorne couldn't certify compliance or provide acceptable licensing documentation without a valid qualifier tied to active permits. The bonding agency started asking questions Hawthorne couldn't answer cleanly. Their insurer flagged the qualifier dispute as a material risk. And inside the company, blame turned into panic. Melissa called me from her car, whispering, "They're shredding," she said. "What?" I asked, already knowing what she meant but needing to hear it. "Not literally," she corrected, "but they're deleting. They told us to clean up the shared drive. People are pulling emails. Darren is walking around telling everyone not to write anything down. HR is..." Crying. I felt something tighten in my throat. Not sympathy for Darren, not anger for Wade, just a dull sadness for the employees caught in a leadership problem, wearing my name. "Melissa," I said, "do you have your own records?" "Yes," she whispered. "I saved everything, because I didn't like how they were talking about you." "Good," I said. "Don't send anything else unless you need to protect yourself. And don't let anyone talk you into putting your name on something you don't understand." She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for days. "They keep saying you betrayed them." I stared at the wall, then said the truth as calmly as I could. "They fired me and kept my liability. That's not betrayal. That's theft." That night, I slept for the first time all week. The next morning, Donna called again. "It's done," she said. "What's done?" I asked, even though my body already knew. "Your disassociation is processed," she said. "Public record will update within 48 hours, sometimes sooner. And Grant, there will likely be a formal hearing, not for you, for them." I opened the licensing board lookup and refreshed. Still there, still listed. I refreshed again. And then, like a bruise disappearing from the skin, the page changed. Qualifying individual. Vacant. Pending update. My name was gone. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like getting my skin back. 2 weeks later, I heard how it ended for them. Hawthorne didn't implode overnight. Real life isn't like that. It bled out. Riverside didn't come back. The client walked and took 2 smaller projects with them. Wade got reassigned, and then quietly chose to pursue other opportunities. Darren kept his title, but lost something worse: trust. Vendors demanded tighter terms. Subs demanded deposits. The company stopped winning bids. It used to win easily because reputations spread in industries like ours faster than official notices. And the board inquiry stayed open because misrepresentation isn't the kind of thing you talk your way out of once it's on paper. As for me, I didn't post about it. I didn't celebrate online. I didn't tell my side in some dramatic thread. I updated my resume. I called 2 clients who had always respected clean work. I took a role with a competitor that ran slower, but honest. On my first day, the owner shook my hand and said, "I checked the board record. I saw the disassociation. I respect how you handled it." That was the real ending, not revenge, not karma as a fireworks show, just a quiet confirmation that doing the right thing, even when it's ugly, eventually becomes your reputation. And on some days, that's enough. Because the liability was live. They tried to keep it on me, and in the end, all I did was refuse to carry what wasn't mine.